What is going on, Birdland? Stephen Heckman here with the Final Strike. Episode 15 is now underway, and we begin the day with a game out of the first place Yankees. So, interestingly enough, during our 5-game losing streak, the Yankees weren't doing much better. We're actually 4-6 in our last 10, where the Yankees are 2-8. We're only a game behind them currently as we speak, which is rather interesting. We finally did get our elusive 50th victory last night, so 50-30 that puts us 20 games over 500. What's interesting is as you go through and look at things, the Houston Astros have actually won 7 in a row and are currently 40-40, only 4.5 games back behind Seattle. So that large lead that Seattle had is slowly dwindling. Seattle is going 4-6 in their last 10. So the hottest team in baseball currently is the Houston Astros, who swept us, unfortunately. But it was a tough week for us last week. We did go 2-4 last week, but the 2 victories were against the New York Yankees in New York. We also took 2 of 3 from the Philadelphia Phillies. Unfortunately, then we were swept by Houston, and we lost the first 2 games of the series against Cleveland before winning that game last night. And we start a 4-game series against the defending AL champions and defending World Series champions, the Texas Rangers. So we'll see what happens going forward. Before we start getting into the nitty-gritty of things, just want to give you a heads up. Zach will return with the first flight as soon as possible. In the middle of a move, so some things are kind of up in the air, but they will be getting things back in and under control and on the flow again. So be on the lookout for that. Just know he's in the middle of taking care of some stuff, but he'll be back before long. So be on the watch. We'll let you know when he returns, which should be relatively soon. But anyway, so with the Baltimore Orioles, a lot of things have been going on. We have Heston Kjerstad back up, which is great. Cedric Mullins appears to be coming out of his slump, which is actually a good thing. So we can actually look forward to him hopefully improving. He's actually brought his batting average up to 214, which is something we like to see. If we can get Cedric Mullins going, you don't understand how big a boost that is to our team. The guy is a spark plug. The guy can do so much. Defensively, he's just about as good as you can get in the outfield, especially playing center field. Offensively, if we can get that bat going, he is so clutch. His bat is very crucial. And interesting enough, if you look over his last 15 games, he's actually batting .378 with a .404 on base percentage. His last 7 games, he's batting .409 with a .409 on base percentage. His slugging percentage is at .864 over his last 7 games, .644 over his last 15. He's got 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, so it's good to see that bat starting to come alive. We get him on base, you're going to start seeing him steal more bases. He's got 4 stolen bases in his last 15 games. He's got 8 in his last 30. That is huge. That is big because what that allows us to do is no longer have to worry about focusing on trading for an outfielder to help boost things, especially with Austin Hayes' bat starting to come around as well. So if you get Cedric Mullins and you get Austin Hayes bats coming around with Colton Cowser, Anthony Santander, and Heston Kjerstad performing up to snuff, that is huge. Those are huge bats to have in the lineup, especially with the defense that Austin Hayes and Cedric Mullins both bring to the team. They will be very crucial going forward. And as I said, coming into this month, June was going to be a make or break month for both Austin Hayes and Cedric Mullins. Cedric Mullins has got off to a slow start. I'm glad to see him coming out of it. Hopefully that continues. He's got 8 home runs, 16 stolen bases right now in the season, and his OPS is now up to 633. So he's getting there. It's not quite where we want it to be, but it is getting there. The most important thing that I do like to see is that on-base percentage is creeping up. It's now up to 257. If we can get him closer into that 30 percentile range, that's magic, especially towards the bottom of the lineup where he is been batting. You get him in that 7, 8, 9 hole. You get Mateo down there, and then you have Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Santander, and Mountcastle all up the top. You're just doing wonderful things there that are going to benefit and aid this lineup so many different directions. Not to mention with the speed that you have from Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Ryan Mountcastle's sneaky fast. Anthony Santander looks like he's a step faster this year than he has been. I don't know if he's slimmed down some. I don't know if he's, trained a little bit differently, but he does have definitely a quicker step this year. So we'll see what happens going forward there as well. We know how Mateo is. Mateo is one of the fastest people in baseball. Westberg's got some good speed. Kalzer has some good speed. Get this speed from Mullins, and you're just asking for nothing but positive things. And that's what we're looking at. Now, I know we discussed this last time, but we're going to be looking into the prospect of probably adding another starter, especially with the likes of Kyle Bradish being shelved for the year. That's a big blow, especially with as good as he had been pitching. It was bad enough we lost Tyler Wells and John Means. Now Kyle Bradish. It's just a big blow. And then you get Danny Coulomb out of the bullpen. Good news, though, is we brought Nick Vespi up, who seems to be holding his own. Nick Vespi is still one of those pitchers that I've been pining for. Me and Jared are big fans of his. And we've actually wondered quite frequently why it has taken so long to get him to be active on the major league roster. Our very own Zach did a rundown, and he's getting close to 20,000 miles traveled back and forth between call-ups and send-downs and everything. So hopefully we don't hit the 20,000 mark, and Vespi's here to stay for a while. We've talked about it before in the past. I'm not a huge fan of Keegan Aiken, but the guy's been doing his part, so I can't be too upset. What we're going to look for going forward, I don't know. There's rumblings that Tanner Scott is in talks and consideration by the Baltimore Orioles. I like Tanner Scott. He actually was pretty good bullpen arm for us there for a while before we traded him to the Marlins, so I would not be opposed to bringing him back. He would be very, very well inclined and fit very well into our bullpen and the way we're doing things. So definitely not too upset or inclined about him coming back. Depends what you're looking at, I think he'd be a good addition to the bullpen. Personally, I would like to see somebody with some closing experience that we can give Kimbrel some time off down the stretch. We don't want to overuse him. Remember, the guy's 35 years old, 34, 35 years old. So he could tire. And one of the mistakes that the Philadelphia Phillies made with Kimbrel last year was they overused him. And I don't want to get to that point. Now, the good news is, like last night when he pitched, that was his first appearance in 7 days. That's fine. When we can give him those 2, 3, 4 day breaks, that's not going to hurt. I like the fact that our pitchers are pitching deeper into games, which is allowing our bullpen to not be overused. So we're not getting too many instances where our pitchers are going less than 6 innings. Every now and then you get one with 5 2/3, but for the most part, we're getting a good 6 innings out of most of our pitchers, and that's definitely not a bad thing at all. It's just going to benefit your bullpen going forward. And I have been one who was huge on the concept of being able to rest your bullpen and use it down the stretch versus tire them out in the beginning of the season, which in the past, our bullpen was usually pretty tired out by the All-Star break. So hopefully we can continue that trend of only using 2, maybe 3 relievers a game, which allows us to complete a rotation and keep people well rested and, keep them ready for the stretch run, especially a long postseason run. And that's what we want, because these guys, if, you start getting into the month of October playing baseball, these guys are going to be tired. You got to figure they start in February and you go all the way to October, November. That's a lot of ball. That is a lot of ball. These guys do get tired. doesn't matter how long you've been doing this, your body does wear down. Your body does get certain injuries that are going to preclude you from performing a certain way or, throwing certain ways and everything like that. So your body has to adjust and adapt. And as you do that, your body starts using core muscles or core developmental aspects that it wasn't there before to aid or to alter how things go forward to make sure that you're comfortable and not overdoing it. So those are things we got to look for, and those are things that you got to pay attention to. Keeping your team healthy is going to be one of the most important things you can do as a manager. And one of the most impressive things that we're seeing from Brandon Hyde this year is how he is managing the rotation. Adley Rushman's gotten some time, a game here and there off. Gunnar Henderson has as well. I don't think we have anybody who's literally played in every single game this season right now, which is definitely not a bad thing. You don't have players built like the Cal Ripken Juniors of old, where they're going to play every day for 21 years. It's just not happening anymore. These players are faster and stronger, which means they're more susceptible to injuries that used not to happen to regular players that we're used to growing up and watching in my time. And that's not to say nobody ever pulled a hamstring or had Achilles tears or groin muscles or obliques, but you're going to see more hamstring injuries, more groin muscles, more oblique strains than you did before because of how much more powerful these guys are, how much more weightlifting they're doing, and how much more training they're doing. So, and it's not to knock anybody from previous generations that they weren't doing it the same way. What I'm saying is the game has changed. Players are bigger, faster, and stronger. Same thing as football. Players are bigger, faster, and stronger. So, the game does change, the game does adapt, and that's what happens going forward. Change is inevitable, and we all have to roll with it, and we all have to accept it. So those are things that you watch, those are things you pay attention to, and those are things you look forward going into a season as the season progresses. We're probably going to be in the market for a starting pitcher. I know a lot of people are considering the guy Crotchet from the White Sox. I'm not a fan. Not saying the guy's not a good pitcher. I just personally, I've seen what the White Sox have done in the past. They overvalued Dylan Cease. We ended up getting Corbin Burnes, which I'm not complaining in the least bit, but because of the way they overvalued Cease, we went out and got Corbin Burnes, which caused them to alter how they approached how they traded Dylan Cease. I think the same thing's going to happen here with Luis Roberts and Crotchet, is that they're going to overvalue them. To the White Sox, yes, they're very valuable players. Do not get me wrong. But to other teams, they're not going to have the same value, and that's what the White Sox have a problem of looking at. Is the White Sox are going to want this, this, and this, which is to the moon, and other players are going to see, no, we just want this and this, and we'll go to the horizon. So it's going to be interesting to see what exactly happens with the Chicago White Sox and what they're asking for some of these players. There's not a deep pitching market, I think, for starting pitching. This trade deadline, I mean, the Marlins probably going to have a couple players, the Angels, the Athletics, of course, the White Sox. Tampa Bay might be a good ground to go to, and possibly even the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays just are not getting it done. And, it was, I want to say about 6 weeks ago, where the Blue Jays GM had said that they weren't at that point where they were ready to pull the plug because they have enough talent to produce and be better than what they are. And it's true they do, but they're not doing it. I mean, currently they're 36-43. They're 3-7 in their last 10 games. They have a negative 46 run differential. They're actually 3 games worse than the Tampa Bay Rays, and Tampa Bay has been decimated with injuries this year. Tampa Bay is actually only a game under 500, and they're 7-3 in their last 10 games. So it's going to be quite interesting to see. Toronto and Tampa Bay, you might get that rare interdivision trade. You don't know, but it's quite possible. But when you look at other teams going forward, Detroit Detroit has a few pieces that might be up for grabs. They're already 15 games back in their division. They're 6 games under 500. Of course, we talked about the White Sox. And then when you go over to the West, you look at the Angels, you look at Oakland, Texas. I don't know if they're at that point where they're deal or die, but they're already 7.5 games back. They're 6 games under 500. They have a negative 8-run differential as well. And they're just not the same team they were last year. And, there's still plenty of baseball left where things can change, but right now, the way Houston and the way Seattle's playing, I don't know if there's enough in Texas's tank to be able to catch them. And that's something that, you have to look at going forward. You head over to the National League and, I don't know if the Nationals are going to come off one of their top 2 pitchers. They have some really good pitching there. I don't think they're going to come off. They're only 4 games under 500. So they're playing a lot better than people expected. You head over to the NL Central. Pirates are only 2 games under. Chicago is 6 games under. Cincinnati has to be a huge disappointment this year. I mean, with the amount of talent on that team to still be in last place, 10.5 games out of first place, 6 games under 500. They're 3-7 in their last 10, and they actually have a +6 run differential, which means that the games they're winning big, but they're also losing too. So I don't know. Colorado, I don't know if you really have anything there that people might want pitching-wise. San Francisco, that's definitely a big possibility. So you can look at that. But other than that, I don't think there's going to be much to look at. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what is available on the pitching market this year. We still do have Julio Teheran available. And I know a lot of people might freak out if I say this. And, I wasn't quite sure about it in the beginning. But the more I watch Trevor Bauer pitch, the more I'm kind of intrigued and curious as to maybe, getting him on a 1-year deal flyer would not be a bad idea. I mean, the charges were dropped against him. I know a lot of people worry about the PR backlash, but the charges were dropped. The other girl recanted what she said, so I don't know. It's an interesting situation, but I mean, when you look at Trevor Bauer this year, I'll pull him up real quick. And he's 33. He'll be 34 next January. So, I mean, he's still in pretty decent shape there. And set the Mexican League record with 19 strikeouts in a game the other day. Let's see what we got going on here. He's 21.1 WAR. He has an 83-69 career record with a 3.79 ERA. I'm not really seeing what his stats are this year. I know it's not bad. His stats this year are a lot better than what people see. Let's see if I can find what we got going on here. I don't know if I can find any updated stats for. Let's see here. This might. He went 8 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 1 base on ball, and 19 strikeouts. I mean, that's a phenomenal line in a game, and I don't care where you're pitching. But he's playing in the Mexican League, and they've got some pretty good players who come out of the Mexican League. So I just – there's so much upside to what he can bring to a baseball team. It's the PR backlash that you've got to worry about. And I just – how do you weigh this? I mean, charges were dropped. So what do you do? He had an all-star season last year in Japan. This year he's got a 2.37 ERA with a 1.02 whip. He's got 12.3 strikeouts for 9 innings. He won the 2020 Cy Young Award. And, a lot of people are worried about the PR backlash. But, there's so many people who've gotten second chances before over things. And you have to wonder, is this worth doing that second chance? Is this worth what you're going to get out of it versus the PR backlash that you're going to take with it? And sometimes that's where you're going to get caught up and stuck in a situation. You have to wonder, is Major League Baseball holding him back? Or is Major League Baseball actually going to encourage people to sign him? And, with a team who has been decimated with pitching injuries, you kind of open the door to having to consider options that aren't going to cost you a ton, or overpaying for a rental and losing key prospects in the process. So people have the ability to reimagine or bring forth their reputation and alter the perception, but then you also have the ability to deal with what the fans are going to say at the same time. And when you look at how Rubenstein has been with the Baltimore Orioles faithful, you kind of wonder if he thinks it's worth the opportunity to do that. And I'm not sure that the weighing of the options is going to partake in that. So I don't know. We'll see what happens going forward. He's having a phenomenal season, and I kind of find it hard to believe that nobody has even sniffed signing him. Regardless of what has happened, this is the type of player that, somebody like the Mets or the Yankees used to go after, even the Red Sox, because they figured they could rebrand his image and rebuild that back up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. Is this something that you in Baltimore would consider? I've seen some fans who have clamored for it. I've seen some fans that have clamored against it. But if the guy's able to prove himself and contribute to taking that next step or getting you to that next step, is it worth the signing? Is it worth the aggravation? Is it worth the PR backlash that you're going to get? Will Major League Baseball support it? There's so many questions that go with it that you have to consider which side of the coin you're going to end up on, and you have to weigh all options. But it's to the point I think you have to consider, even if you talk to him or bring him in for a tryout, at least the possibility should exist. Let me know what you think. On that note, we're going to close things up. Don't forget, like I said, Zachary Bucklow will be back soon with the First Flight podcast. Just in the middle of the move right now, so things are kind of up in the air as they get things settled, and he will be back sooner than you can expect, bringing you some more information on the minor leagues. We all look forward to that and appreciate everything Zach does in helping bring it to you. Also, do not forget to check out thebaltimorebattery.com for all the newer articles. You've got numerous articles from RJ, from Katie, from Zach, from me. It's definitely worth finding a niche in there that you can get used to and that you can enjoy. So check it out. TheBaltimoreBattery.com. You can find them on X and X, formerly of Twitter, and TikTok at the Be More Battery. You can find me on X and TikTok at SRJ Heckman. You can actually find The Final Strike on X at The Final Strike _, and we are now available on YouTube at The Final Strike _. Please be sure to check it out there. You can see this lovely bug on TV now. We're going to be working towards actually having a live event soon where you all can come in and ask questions and be a part of the show. So we're looking forward to getting that going eventually. Don't forget to check out the Baltimore Batteries TikTok page. You have 10 minutes with me, get once a week. And sometimes I'll just get on there and spit some few things out pertaining to different things. Plus, we'll do some quick video recaps. Also, want to give a special shout out to Scooters for Rent. Without them, we would not be here either. They are my sponsors. So I want to thank Scooters for Rent. If you're ever in the Maryland, Delaware, Eastern Shore area and you need mobility equipment ranging from scooters, manual wheelchairs, beach wheelchairs, electric wheelchairs, or reclining lift chairs, Scooters for Rent is the place you want to contact. Tell them Stephen from the Final Strike sent you. Until next time, Baltimore, please keep that beer cold and do not forget to have a wonderful evening. And peace out until next time.